This video is sponsored by DoubleCoin. Visit doublecointires.com for more information.
As technology has changed both in the vehicle and in the shop, the life of a truck technician has changed too. While advancing technology has made the job more difficult, the ease provided by things like switching to online software for repairs rather than paper manuals and diagrams certainly makes things more efficient. One example of this can be seen in the TMC SuperTech competition, held every spring as part of the TMC fall meeting. The competition is a two-day event between technicians from all around the country. Day one features various tabletop and hands-on skills challenges for the professional technician track, which includes all types of technicians. Day two features more skills challenges. If you were to attend this competition decades ago, you'd see a lot of rifling through papers trying to find the right manual, diagram, or fault for a particular truck. Now you won't see any of that, as online software has made things much easier. To talk about how the competition represents the changes that have been brought about in truck service over the years, Christy Kaufman, director of the Commercial Vehicle Group from Mitchell 1, joined me on this episode of On the Road. Watch as we talk through the good and bad of changes to fleet service over the years, hear what she has to say about the future and advice to up-and-coming technicians, and point and laugh at the screen as I keep accidentally calling it Super Skills instead of SuperTech. All right, so today on the Road, we are talking truck technicians. And today with me here, I have Christy Kaufman, who is the director of the Commercial Vehicle Group for Mitchell 1. Christy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we're talking technicians today, and we had the TMC Super Skills competition pretty recently, and we're going to kind of use that as our example today. They hold that every year. It's a way for technicians to kind of show off their skills. So going off of that and kind of using it as an example, how has technology changed the way technicians do their jobs over the years?
It's a pretty broad question. Not broad question. It's a big question, right? There's been so many technologies over the last so many years. I remember when I started my journey into the commercial industry, and a lot of the technicians at the time were leaving the automotive sector to come over to the diesel sector so that they could not have to deal with electronics on the vehicles. They were wanting to stay with the more mechanical engines, and lo and behold, technology takes hold whether we want it or not, right? And so I think that anywhere from the electronics on the vehicle to them just being a little bit more advanced, more integrated, being able to actually speak to us in certain ways, right? So before you had to chase things down a little bit more, and not that you don't have to do it today, but we have devices that help the technicians because of the technologies speak the truck's language a little bit more.
Right.
So I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. I would say too, the technology on the trucks themselves has changed, but the technology you have in the shop has also changed. And
correct.
I know that you guys at Mitchell 1 are an example of that.
Absolutely. We at Mitchell 1, we started 100 plus years ago with manuals, and over the years have evolved from CDs to DVDs to online. And to your point, going from not only just the different technologies that way, but then also how our brains work and how we search for things. I know in the earlier versions of our products, there was it was very subcategory based to be able to find information. Excuse me. And now we have, Google-like opportunities to search for information. A lot more intelligence that is being brought into our software, so that we can better understand whether that's the type ahead feature in our product, better understand what the technician is trying to say to us, so that we can help them find the information better. Wiring diagrams are it used to be a couple of couple of wires, a few wires, and now it's it's exponential that. And so to be able to go through a wiring diagram effectively, and whether it's hiding certain wires so that you're in scope of what you're truly looking at, or highlighting certain wires, those types of things. So being able to advance, like you said, the different tools in the system, in the shop. We have to stay up with what's happening, and utilize those technologies to our advantage.
Right, definitely. There's, if you're the technician, there's not so much rifling through papers trying to find the right thing anymore.
Correct. You're not taking I always love it when I hear about technicians taking wiring, to pick on wiring diagrams again, but they'll take wiring diagrams and paste them together and put them up on the wall so that they can follow the line all the way through, and that's just not necessary these days. I mean, now we can go to our tablets and our phones and pinch and zoom and do all types of wonderful things, and click on connectors and being able to see an exploded view of that connector, and have a better understanding of what's of how everything's connected, and that's just continuing to increase the different levels at the technical skills challenge. During some of the technical sessions that I sat in on, just different technologies that are coming out with how to navigate and see different components and such on the vehicle, and how that can help a technician get to pinpoint the problem a lot faster than ever before.
Yeah, definitely. You've touched on this already, but there are some ways that all these changes have made things easier, some ways that they have made things harder. So, for example, if you're one of the technicians in that Super Skills Challenge, what would you give as examples, like something that made it easier, something that's made it harder?
I would say some of the electrical, again, picking, not to pick on the electrical, but picking on the electrical again, it's just gotten so much more advanced. One of the stations that was never there before, and I know this isn't technically on this topic, but it is cybersecurity. So that was something that was never a station before. I think cybersecurity is still fairly recent as one of the stations that is being tested on. Now that you can communicate with the vehicle, that also means that bad characters can communicate with vehicles. And how do we pay attention to that and make sure that our vehicles and our freight is safe, and our drivers and our technicians? How do we make sure that they're safe? So cybersecurity is kind of an interesting one. That is a specific change. Looking at some of the other stations, even looking at the recommended practices station, that was never a station before. But you look at TMC and what they do for the industry, and taking whether that is a specific operation on a repair, or making sure that now that we have electric vehicles, how do we handle those properly? How do we tow those properly? Those types of things. Having to understand not only what is different from before or after, but what are the ramifications or unforeseen consequences that could happen, and how can we prepare for those and mitigate any harm to, like I said, ourselves or the vehicles.
Yeah, your point about cybersecurity is a good one. You don't really think of it as, being part of this, but the more that our trucks and our cars become like computers, the more they can be hacked.
Absolutely.
So that is something that we need to keep in mind, for sure.
Yep. You look at news and recent events, and that's become a reality of how, whether it's our vehicles or other devices that we have on us, how that is a very important factor we have to pay attention to. Misguiding routes that should have happened. Being able to get into getting into our different systems as far as maybe our fleet management system or that type of thing, and move things where they shouldn't be moving, right? Or make blocks.
So when we look at all of this, all these changes that have come and are going to come, if you're, speaking to young technicians, maybe they're interested in getting into the industry or they're interested in competing in something like super skills in the future, what advice would you have for them?
Do it. Do it. That's the best advice I can give. Something that I noticed at this year's competition was there was more involvement, I thought, than in more recent previous years from smaller shops and smaller fleets. That was really encouraging to see, and not that the big players, a technician is a technician wherever he works, and we want to see them grow, but to have some of the smaller entities have that opportunity. To see so many in the FutureTech. So there is the FutureTech Challenge as well that runs in parallel with the SuperTech. And watching these guys have this opportunity to not only test against other people, but they're testing against themselves and what are their abilities. And there are many that come back year after year and find out, okay, where was my deficiency and how can I do better in that specific challenge. And by doing that, they're just making themselves better technicians. But not only that, they're becoming, whether they realize it or not, they're becoming mentors to other technicians. So now they become the resident expert in their shop because they have been exposed to so much more than maybe the same jobs that I'm doing time after time. The technical skills challenges not to be redundant, but it challenges the technicians to get outside of their current wheelhouse and perhaps work on things or be challenged on things that they had never even worked on before. I know one of the techs was sitting in our station, and afterwards I asked him how it was and how did he feel about it, and he made a comment. He said, I'm a trailer tech. So for him to look up information that's related to the engine or the transmission or whatever it may be was completely outside of his wheelhouse. But for him to take on that opportunity to learn more there's no downside to that. There's just absolutely no downside to that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you make a good point about, them becoming mentors after learning some of these things. And, that's something the industry really needs. That's kind of
absolutely
vehicle repair as a whole. That's kind of how it keeps going, is people passing along tips and tricks and things they've learned in various places. So we definitely need that to keep going.
Yes. And I think, we do have a certain population, I guess constantly, but we do have a certain population of those technicians that I was referring to earlier that did come over for the more mechanical side of things. We're aging out, and I say we because I'm not far from there, but we're aging out, and the new, the younger generations are coming in, and the tools that they have and they use on a day-to-day basis just from growing up. So whether that be the computer or a laptop or a scan tool or augmented reality type of, goggles and that type of thing, they are going to demand it upon us that put those tools out there to make sure that they are pieces of technology that are familiar to them and are useful to them. So it's also good for us suppliers to challenge ourselves and how can we produce products that are easier for them to do their job, make it easier for them to do their job.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Christy, thanks so much for coming on the road today. This is a great talk.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think that is the end of our official recording.